I'll go
you
first.
go first. Yep.
The I did it.
Yeah, you did. Yes,
There
you did.
go. I did my 3 magic words. What might you do? I did it.
Yeah.
Let's see. What would you do specifically, and what might you do specifically now? And
Yes.
so we worked through everything, and we got to the now, and that was my homework. And so, I was on travel, and so I thought I would be very positive and get it done in the car. That didn't happen, but I did contemplate it. And so when I landed at my parents, I got it done. And but it really, also, I love the accountability factor that I promised you I would have it on the site. So I did that. So yeah, it was all good. I love that.
So you've stated the verbiage. So the 3 magic words are
might specifically, and now.
right. But the 3 magic words are might, specifically, and now. And then you can stack them as you just did in that order. For anybody who happens to be new on the call, that's really what we covered off last week. But it's amazing how we can dive into detail on that to start getting your brains to connect. What did you specifically notice when you used might, specifically, and now in doing your homework? Because you were saying that you were stuck to some degree last week.
Yeah, I was stuck in several things because everybody does it different. I think I was trying to, I don't know what I was trying to do, but I find.
Hold it right there. You were trying to, great language.
Busted.
Yeah, sort of.
Be quiet, Jamie.
This is like running a real group. I love it. It is fun. This takes me back. Yeah, she's busted is right.
It is a real group, Blair, just so you know.
It is a real group. They just are thousands of miles apart. But now we got through the magic of technology. Everybody's here for real. Yeah, busted, trying. What are you trying? What is trying? What is that thinking pattern of you doing trying?
It's being stuck is what it is.
Yes, it is. But okay, I'm going to park you there for a moment.
Okay.
Dwayne, what do you think it is, other than in addition to being stuck? What do you think it is?
Trying, I guess, is looking backwards instead of forwards.
Sometimes we didn't have enough language to know which direction for sure, but that is one of the things I'd be definitely watching out for when she starts talking, like which direction is she pointing in? Is her language going in? Is it going forwards or is it going backwards? And then trying, is it in the now? Dwayne, is it in the now? What is it?
It's in the past.
Warm. It's a weird one. I really wish. Oh, just a second here. I'm going to try something else here.
Effective versus ineffective. It's ineffective.
Yeah, it is ineffective. But okay. Hey, Trevor, where can I find that whiteboard? Yeah. Is it in, it's in share. Okay, I can try sharing this way. Okay, so everybody can see my screen, I hope.
Yes. So
what we're going to do is I'm going to, oh, that's a terrible. Okay. So let's just get a darker blue here. And okay, let's just try this. So okay. So she has a past and a future, and I'm going to move that there on this one. Okay, so I can't actually position these things. First time I used it. I'll just try drawing it, and I'll put that one there. Okay, so pardon
You
my
can just put P. Just put P for past and F for future, if that helps.
perfect. Not much. Okay, so past and future. So here we have something that is there. What does she do? What does trying do in our brains?
Puts it into the future.
Gives
It
her an
puts
out.
it. Sorry.
I think, does it give her an out, an excuse to not do it?
Yeah. How come?
Because there's no action. It's a. It just is like a loop.
You're right. And where does it put it?
In the in the past, yeah, and yeah, it's a loop. Yeah,
It's a past future.
yeah,
It took me years to figure this out.
yeah. That makes total
when you
sense.
listen to somebody's language, some people want to put it in the past, some people want to put exactly the same language pattern into the future, and they say, no, it's the future, no, it's the past. No, it's a past future. But your now is not in there. You have no now. So that's a problem.
Yeah, it is.
Because it doesn't happen when it's not in the present. So all action can only happen when?
In the now.
Right.
Mhm.
And trying is an action.
Interesting, because when we adopted my daughter, and she was doing some counseling, and she would tell the counselor, I can remember this, she would say, well, I'm trying, right? And she'd go, really? She'd go, try to move that pillow, right?
Yeah.
And she would make a face and squirm up her face and say, I'm moving that pillow. And then nothing would happen. And she said, come on, try to move that pillow. She said,
I do it the same thing, but I put a pen in my hand and I say, try to pick up the pen. Go, I'm trying. Okay.
Yep.
Same
And
difference.
and it was exactly, and it was a great lesson. And I realized, she's like, yep, you got to take action and do it now. So,
you know what Yoda said it the best: do or do not. There is no try.
try. That's right.
Okay. Do or do not. There is no try.
So I've always remembered that.
And here at the Blair Dunkley Experience, we have a little saying that we're going to start using a lot, because I'm running groups again. If you don't do it, it doesn't count. And I don't care if what you do is successful or fails. I don't care, because that's learning. Whether you're doing it successfully and effectively or failing at it miserably, you did something.
Right. Well, I mean,
action was taken.
not doing anything is still doing. I mean, not taking anything, you're still making a decision, a poor one, to not do something. But I think that the reason that I backed off on that word is because I don't want to try, and so that was why I was stuck, as I was doing the try, and then went into the now and saying, I just got to get this done. And breaking it down into parts and saying, okay, so what can I do? What can I do? And then getting into your 3 magic words.
Right. And how did that actually wind up helping you? That's where I want you to go.
It pushed it into a now situation, because I could answer it in small increments.
Okay. Well done.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Helps a lot.
So, because what my brain does is puts it into the big picture. So then I get overwhelmed and then I shut down.
Right.
So by doing it in the 3 specifically, might do specifically and then do now, it breaks it down into smaller sections.
Right. Great. Perfect. Dwayne, what's your update? And then we'll get to John.
My update was that I have figured out that instead of why me, what now? The example that I got shown was you get in a wreck, a little fender bender, instead of why me? And, you know, it's, excuse me,
So where is why me?
it's like in the past.
100%. That's not even a past future. That's 100% in the past.
Right.
Okay.
And I'm learning to put that into play. What now? What's next? That all the emotions that I experience, whether they're good or bad, depends on the label that I put on them.
Absolutely.
So I'm trying to.
Okay, you're bringing up another, like you just brought up another mind model. Any idea which one you did? You used half of the descriptor.
I don't know.
Okay.
Naming
I'm just
labeling.
trying to work through the
Naming and labeling, you got it, John. Spot on.
just trying to go through the effective versus ineffective thought process is what
That's right, and you are. And John just named and labeled what you just did, and you just named and labeled naming and labeling. So I mean, seriously, it sounds weird, but it is. It's that simple. Naming and labeling. What does that do for your brain when you name it and label it, Dwayne? What did that do?
It kind of clarified it and made it more like in the now, what's happening now, let's take care of it.
When you make it in the now, is it simpler or more complicated?
Oh, way much more simpler.
How come?
Because I don't know, because I'm not stressing about what could
You
have been.
can't stress about it. You're right, because it's present. How come? Where does stress exist?
In your mind?
And what tense does stress exist in?
Past tense.
Right. And
I don't know. The present tense.
do you actually stress about things in the future that might happen to you?
Usually I don't.
Okay, but I would argue that. I think I can prove you wrong pretty fast. I don't know if I want to take the time to do that, but yeah. Here's how most people, how stress is impacted from them, by them. They get into a loop of a why loop, but that why loop again goes back and goes forward into the future, where they anticipate that they're going to have that bad problem happen to them again.
Yes.
So they've gone into that past future loop and removed themselves from now. Actually, I just realized I can simplify this whole thing. I know it'll mess up my board a bit, but that's another project and you guys are important. So what the hell? Okay, so yeah. Just 2 seconds. I'll just pivot my camera up slightly. There we go. So, past, future, going back and forth, right? Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, good. So this past, future right here, you just did it again with bringing the past, projecting it into the future, and what you create from that in your present area is stress. SS. You stress out about that, and the anticipation. A little reality here is there's been a lot of study done on worry, and stress comes from worry. And so we think that terrible things are going to happen. There we go. Just slightly more. Okay, so terrible things are going to happen to us. 97% of things that we worry about never happen. That study, that bit of research has been replicated multiple times from multiple universities. And it varies, but it goes 98%, 96%, 95%. I have never seen one of the studies that one guy did his research was to study the research that was done on worry. And he claimed in his thesis, dissertation, I forget, it was either master's or PhD, but in his work that he was doing on this stuff was that none of the studies done was less than 90%. Like, in other words, it's like 91, 92, and up in all of the studies. And all of the studies averaged out to 97%. Just with the numbers of people, just sheer numbers. Which means, on average, 3% of what we worry about actually does happen. The rest we make up.
That's great.
Now, one of the realities of this is not weird. We are not weird because that actually happens. We have evolved to stay alive. This is all fight or flight instinct to us. Well, near instinct, people would argue that it's not, but it is very basic for survival. So our survival comes from our ability to anticipate problems. So anticipating problems, if you think about that, means if you can only anticipate a problem, you are going to find a lot of problems, correct?
Yes.
Right. Okay, so your brain is working on anticipating problems. But if you position yourself as a problem solver and your belief and behaviors are paired as problem solving, do you wind up worrying, stressing about your life going forward or back if you see yourself as a problem solver?
No, and isn't that though, because I feel like that's what I do, and
yes.
And I think it's different because when I'm talking to people, it's whether you're owning it yourself or viewing it as a third, like a third.
That is one of the few key elements, but those are belief models that can be and have frequently been taught and talked about when we get into trying to shift people's beliefs. Okay, so that's a very common model to attempt to do. The problem is, it's great for the person who has that.
Yeah, but explaining it?
No. And I mean, if you even try and explain it, like, you know, there's lots of speakers that have been out there on the circuit for decades making very good money, sharing this, you know, bit of information and say, look at me, look at my life. And they have it. They have a great life to prove it. And the few other people that have figured this stuff out have that great life too. But what if you could have a way of actually installing identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable behaviors in people that generate a belief? Would that be more powerful? That's what I used to do. And that's what Life Skills College was done. And that's where my research started from, was saying, okay, there's these common things that are, in order to move your life ahead and become successful, you need to cope with your problems, number one. Number two, you need to be a problem solver. Mm-hmm. So you got to be able to cope with it and solve it, and then success comes. Where is belief in there? It's not, because you don't need to believe it. You just need to do it. Mm-hmm. Hence the whole thing that our thing back at Life Skills and here is, if you don't do it, it doesn't count. So if you don't do the work, if you don't use the behaviors here, they won't help you. And mind models are the precursor to behaviors. John, I want to get you in. Dwayne, how are you with this stuff? Oh, I didn't get your story. So how did it go from you? Sorry.
It went good.
So what did you get done, and how did you use the 3 magic words?
Like I said, just learning to understand instead of doing why me and looking back putting myself in the present. And like you said, become a problem solver, not a problem creator.
Well, actually, I want to build on that too, because a lot of people are not problem creators, they're problem duplicators. Okay, because they actually had that problem in the past and they reflect on it again to see if they can solve it a different way.
And then then they go and project onto what they're doing.
Bingo. And then what?
Which then you have the problem that you're worried about. I mean, it just
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the duplication. It's
Right.
subtly different. And in the mind of the person who owns that problem, massively different.
right.
But for an outside observer, you go, oh, that's a little different, sure. But it's mostly the same. And they go, no, it's completely different. Out of nothing. Like, yeah, it's with my mom and my sister and me and, blah, blah, blah. And. But this is a completely different situation.
Yeah.
Yes, it is, because it wasn't done at the same time. It is you projecting ahead and seeing the problem that's going to happen because you're going to make it happen, because this whole thing of looking at the past, moving it into the future, is this whole idea of creating self-fulfilling prophecies. Sorry I cut you off yet again, Dwayne, but you've got such great content there that it's just so many teaching moments. Thank you.
What he's not telling you is he did not have a homework assignment. He got out of it. You're caught. He got John and I to have the homework assignment.
I steered the conversation in the right direction last week.
Facilitator.
Oh yeah, cool. Okay, with that said, let's move on to John. Okay, John, because you also posted your stuff, and thank you so much for posting. It's wonderful.
You're welcome.
I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a way of responding to those posts a little bit more effectively, like would you guys like a little mini video of me commenting on those?
Yeah, would love it. I
Sure.
would love
Okay,
anyone on the feed to comment on mine.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
My homework was to make sure they did their homework, so I kept asking them if they had
And
got
he
it.
was good at it too. I got a reminder. I don't know if John did.
I did.
Wayne, thank you. You are like the hall monitor that I never had. Or the homework monitor. Yeah, that's even better. Okay, John. 3 magic words.
Well,
and chunking down, because as I recall, chunking down was
the essence. I mean, that was the essence of the proposed solution was getting redefining success in smaller bites, basically smaller chunks. And so, it's a work in progress, but I got into looking at what I've been doing and how can I make it small? How can I make it chunk it down?
Yeah.
And we also talked about scheduling.
Yes, we did.
And with a changing schedule, I tend to be very linear. Okay, I'm going to do this for from 9 to 11, and then I'm going to do this, and every day is different, and I can't keep to that. I've tried that.
Right.
So anyway, my solution was chunk things down into 15-minute units. And let's say I watch one of your videos like I did today. I reviewed the naming and labeling. So that was about a half hour. So that's 2 units. So I made myself a spreadsheet. I did this before on for a different purpose, but it allows me to track time spent and then put that in units, and then I could say, okay, I've got a little system of I want to make sure I make progress in about 4 areas every day. That's my goal. And so if I get 2 to 3 units or in each of those 4 areas, I've had a great day. But what this also does is force me to do what you suggested way back in the beginning, which is keep track of my beginning with you, that is, keep track of your successes during the day. If you don't keep track, you can't celebrate your success. And that's big gap for me in my past is is just, even a big success, I failed to celebrate it. It's just like, okay, well, now I've got to get on to the next thing, and I just kind of sweep it under the rug. And that's not terribly effective either.
So what shifted? Do you notice?
What shifted is it kind of took the pressure off. It's like I'm
That's one of them.
Any baby steps are still progress.
They are absolutely,
and
that's a big difference though from last week.
Yeah.
Baby steps were almost viewed as no steps.
Having, Dwayne was talking about his role here, and somewhere in this process that I came up, your compare and contrast has really got me going. And, accountability versus blame seems like a big one. It certainly has been for me, at least. Confusion between the two concepts, and their accountability is simply, I did this or I did that. And, well, you can probably speak to it better than I. It may be one of your mind models for all I know.
It is, but it's on the next one. So
another night.
You're all right.
So anyway, so work in progress, imperfect system, but it's a system that's implemented and working, and I see a shift, and it's something that is drawing me in instead of repelling me.
Nice. How come? What's causing it to draw you in?
Because it does allow me to look at. Now I have to discipline myself to make sure I keep the records, but I can look back and say, oh yeah, look, I did that, I did that, I did that. Good job.
Okay, how come you patted yourself on the back right there, literally? Would you have done that 3 weeks ago?
I mean, it's not like the first time I've ever done that motion or whatever, but it is not something that I guess I would say I would do that to remind myself that I need that and appreciate it.
Okay, I have never chatted with you before this, with you smiling during a regular conversation on an ongoing basis. I mean, this is my first experience of you doing that behavior in a regular conversation.
Oh.
And the stress on your face, and your wife is nodding in the background. And it's Karina, right?
Connie,
sorry. Connie, what have you noticed?
There's a levelness there that hasn't been there in a long time. An evenness there. He's not doing this all day long, bouncing from one emotion to another, or from one high to one low. Almost manic sometimes. But this week I have noticed a whole lot more calmness and a whole lot of, as I'm, driving up behind somebody going, move! And he's going, no, it's okay.
Yeah.
And that's kind of unusual.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, I like it. Thank you.
I will say just from the times, and I don't know John at all. So, but just on the few times that I've seen him on this, I agree with you. I think there's a big difference in his whole presence.
Yeah.
It seems a lot lighter.
Yeah. He's far more relaxed looking this than last week.
Well, I was pretty dead last week. No question.
So yeah, so I mean, and just think when you get really good at it, how he's just going to be floating.
Not likely, but he's going to be effective. And this is what an early stage effective John looks like.
Yay.
Yes, right. But do you notice, like, you start having spin-off effects, and he's reviewing some of the stuff. I mean, John bought my program, Rewiring Your Mind for Wealth, and he stated like that the mind model naming and labeling he reviewed in that. I'm assuming that was what you did, correct? because
Well, no, actually, I did it from one of the Tuesday webinars. I went back
nice.
to, I think,
Okay, well, either way.
26th, but yeah.
But the chunking it down and making these things into executable behaviors is like super important to do. Because knowing what to do is one thing, but knowing how to do it and doing it gets the kind of responses that we're getting from John more consistently. It starts impacting us with a view of ourselves so that we actually change ourselves. I was working on a one-liner for the Blair Dunkley experience, and I'm going to run this by the three of you. So on the Blair Dunkley experience, we help busy entrepreneurs looking to break through, make small shifts in thinking using mind models, which enable them to gain the clarity needed to accomplish their goals faster and more easily. The benefit of that is when you actually do this, you will also gain self-confidence as a byproduct. And John, you look like you're starting to gain real self-confidence as opposed to confidence. Okay, where you figure out where your successes are coming from. And because you did these steps, you have externally verified and proven to yourself that you're not conning yourself. You're not trying to suck yourself into believing that you did better. You, in fact, are doing better. You are being more effective. And by being more effective, your brain starts changing and goes, I know, I know. That's what mind models do. By the way, I'm going to get on my soapbox here for a moment and also talk a little bit about this is what mindset promised but never delivered on. Like it said that if and when you get your mindset right, this is the benefit that you should be able to experience. And if you train millions of people, thousands of people will stumble across it. Just sure odds. You know, between 5 and 10% will actually improve, which is actually less than what should happen because it should be an 80-20 rule and it isn't. It's about a 5 to 10 rule. In other words, 90 to 95% of the people don't get any benefit from mindset. Or if they do, it's not identifiable in a way that they can repeat it and duplicate it. But do you notice everything I've taught is identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable? There's nothing here that is asking you just believe in it and it'll work. The more you believe in it, the better it gets. Well, that's true, but I'm not just saying do that and it'll magically appear. It's like wishing for money and do this whole thing. Years ago, there was I
think it's like trying.
It is like trying, but it's even worse. It's more seductive. And I'm going to give you the other bit of science, psychology that was tested out in the late 80s and early 90s. There was a wonderful experiment that I'm sure some universities still do, but it's pretty much run its course because it's conclusive. It's not opinion anymore. And it was all about, you know, if you can visualize it, you can manifest it.
Right.
Okay? Sorry, bullshit. Okay? If you visualize it, you cannot necessarily manifest it. Not saying that visualization can't help. Don't get me wrong here. It can. But there was a bunch of people out there on the speaking circuit saying, what I want you to do is visualize yourself making $1 million and you'll make $1 million.
Yeah.
Okay. You were back in the day when out there and you probably heard that.
Yep.
It was all over the place. And I went, man, if people only knew the truth about that, what a load of crap. Although it's not a lie, but here's the whole thing. Here's the test. University gets 90 students together for this experiment. Divide them up into 3 groups, 30, 30, and 30. First group, they get everybody shooting basketballs, and everybody takes 50 shots, 100 shots, whatever it is. They get their average. And the first group, they tell them, don't do anything, which is a control group. Come back in, in 2 weeks, and we'll test you again. Okay. Actually, it's 21 days was the secret time. So it was 21 days because they were doing 2 things. 21 days to change or make a habit happen. Okay. A couple of things. Okay. So the control group are sent off, just run your life, come back in 21 days. We'll retest you. And the next group was come back every day for 20 minutes for 21 days and practice for 20 minutes every day. And everybody did that. And then the last group was, we want you to do guided visualization for 20 days. And on you getting up there and shooting the baskets. Okay, now I'm going to warn you right now that it's going to sound like I'm going to contradict myself, but I'm going to point out the flaw that people were saying, just visualize yourself making $1 million, because it's obvious once you know the secret. But they would use that study as evidence that visualization works. So they brought everybody back. First group tested out the same, plus or minus, no statistical difference. Okay. Second group, the one that practiced, that actually was the true baseline group, and that one was called 100% improvement. So pop quiz to the 3 of you. At what level of improvement did the visualization people get compared to the people that actually practiced? What percentage gain on average?
10%.
10%?
50%.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say 50.
Okay. Well, all 3 of you are way low, because they actually got, depending on the study, between an 85 or 87% to a 98.
Oh, that's right.
98%.
Because they were using that as why that worked.
That's right.
So it had to get a high one, right?
It did. Almost like 98% was like some of the higher ones,
Right.
but it was between 85 to 98%.
Got it.
So visualization works. So where's the flaw in this whole thing? Everybody in the study who came in had already shot a basketball and knew the mechanics of doing that.
Got it.
When people say make $1 million in your mind, okay, like see that $1 million, manifest that $1 million. Do you know how much work it takes to make $1 million? Have you made $1 million before? If you've made $1 million, you can probably visualize yourself again doing that, and it'll probably work. But at the end of the day, they're doing this to people who have never made $1 million, saying all you have to do is visualize it, which is bullshit. Like, it's hokum. It does not happen. The person who does that visualization has to have real world behaviors to see that increase happen. And they have to know what they need to do in order to refine it, to make incremental improvements to make that thing happen yet again. They also know how difficult it is to make $1 million, and sometimes how easy it is. When they get their mind models in place, it's sometimes not as difficult as you think, and other times it's way more difficult because you're getting in your own way and you're not evaluating, you're judging yourself. And did you notice, John, how simpler things are seeming right now for you?
Yeah, definitely less judging, and less seeking perfection. That's one of the things I tripped on a little bit in working in it, is that I went into my tendency of, wanting to create a perfect system, And as I started looking at some of the things, some I kind of already know what to do. They're basic, you know, it's just basically get into it and work with it, like studying a particular subject. You know, I've got a structured lesson, but something else, it's actually defining a process. And I could quickly see myself getting derailed into minutia of every detail of every step of every process. And so, you know, at some point I realized, okay, this is a bigger project than I thought it was when I took it on, but also it's not, that level of detail is not going to be effective. Let's just get started and then I can improve it as I go.
Yeah, that's where I was with my stuck.
Exactly. That's where most people are when they get stuck. Okay. So I want to thank you guys a ton for coming in and helping debrief all this stuff. What I'd like to do is maybe we can add to this as opposed to, because I'd like you guys to maybe, I was just thinking, who could I do? If there's somebody else that would like to join the panel that is here on the call with us, I would love for you to raise your hand. Brent, if you'd care to join, feel free. Becky can join. Well, anybody.
How many people do you want, Blair?
2 more, just a couple more people. So first 2 people with their hands up get to join the call.
And so you're wanting to have people come in and help facilitate the next part of the lesson?
Well, not help facilitate, be active.
The example, yeah.
Guinea pigs. I'll warn you, you guys are going to be guinea pigs. So just
There's a target.
Yeah.
But
So
you'll learn more. You'll
learn lots more.
Worthwhile.
John's smile just disappeared. He's back on the hot seat.
Well, while we're waiting, Dwayne, how did your speech go?
Well, I haven't given it yet.
Oh, okay. When do you give it?
Well, the actual talk is not till January. The promo material work of it is next week in Atlanta.
Got it.
Nice. Cool.
And my topic on my speech is mind models.
Oh, cool. Wow. Okay, Blair, you're about to get a lot of publicity.
Yeah.
Cool. Very nice. Very, very nice. So if you need any help. So anyway, so what are you talking like now? You've really piqued my curiosity. What are you speaking mind model? I know that you were referring to it, but
well, it's going to be the mindset versus mind model.
Okay.
Wow. I want to know why you don't say why to make you cry, because I know it drives you crazy. So that's is that a mindset? Is that different?
Yeah,
Yes,
it is.
Mindset.
No, yes and no. That why is actually, all of that goes into a very deep mind model, a very, very large one that is all about called question concepts. And it takes a lot of time to teach that. And it is very, not complex, but it is one of those.
I'm sorry. Is that in your program, or is that something you do is a little higher?
That's a little higher up in there. So if people want to
really want to know that one.
Well, there's opportunities to learn that are going to be coming up, and we're going to be offering additional courses that will get people into the question concepts. And eventually, if I can, nobody has raised their hand. I would really appreciate it. Otherwise, we'll just get going with this. Somebody there, I'll give you guys a couple more, a minute or two to decide, but please.
We don't bite.
We're going to go question progression, and we're going to get into how people think and break down thinking. so that they can start figuring out stuff and share this. So
Trevor
um,
likes.
I'm not going to intentionally embarrass anybody. I'm not going. It's probably not the best way to frame it, but
Hey,
it's
that was
not
an honest,
intentional.
that was an honest statement. Hey,
Yeah,
you weren't lying.
no, it's true.
Marilyn said she hasn't been she hasn't been paying full attention since she's been distracted. Just to fill you in, Marilyn. So if you probably weren't here last week, but last week we started this new format where Blair brings people on, like you can see Jamie, Dwayne, and John are with us right now. They started off last week and he worked through the mind model with them. So instead of just being a talking head and me and Blair going back and forth and trying to teach the mind model, we're actually using a group to teach it instead, which is how Blair has always taught people in the past. And now we're just finally figured out a way to mimic it on a webinar. So you don't necessarily have to have been here last week. Correct me if I'm wrong, Blair.
That's correct.
If you would like to learn the mind model and do it live, we'll just bring you on and you'll get walked through it. Blair will ask you questions along with everybody else on the panel.
Katrina just put her hand up.
Yeah, we
Okay.
highly recommend it.
All right, I'll bring Katrina on.
And it's fun too.
Yeah.
It's fun, guys.
Yeah.
We need fresh blood so Blair doesn't pick on us so much.
Oh, Marilyn.
All right, and then Marilyn raised her hand too. Okay, there we go.
Okay, perfect. Perfect, Katrina. You got yourself off mute. Well done. And then Marilyn is going to be on here too. Awesome. Yep. Awesome.
Hi.
Perfect. Hey. And there's Marilyn. Awesome.
Hey, way to go, Marilyn.
Hey, the girls are represented now.
You're still muted, Marilyn. Did she just...
Down in the left there? Left
there we go.
corner.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
Cool. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
You can.
Awesome. Sorry.
So want to do a quick little intro, who you are, how you heard about this, and what you've liked so far about, the Blair Dunkley experience / mind models.
Okay, I'll go. I have been on once before. It's been a few weeks ago, and
Yes.
you did profile me.
Yep.
So I kind of know how it goes for profiling. But I really liked it. I like it because I just feel like I've been stuck in many ways in my life for years, and I'm so open to learning something new, some new tools to help me break through and grow and just get past things that are holding me back.
Very cool. Okay. Excellent. And for you, Katrina, could you share a little bit about yourself?
You profiled me before a month ago, I think, and I was very scared the first time, and you said that I beat myself up too much, and I enrolled to your the neurotypes class, and it's been helping me. I've been doing Facebook Live, and I'm not as scared anymore, and it has changed my mindset, how I think. But I want to know more because I'm getting frustrated of being stuck. I just want to be the person I want to be. That makes sense.
Okay, well done. Okay, so we have, we're going to do the new mind model today. It's question progression.
What is it?
It's called question progression.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, this one. It's actually really simple. Let me ask you guys, Katrina and Marilyn, you two, both of you get first shots at this one. So I'll be very specific, when does change happen?
Ooh.
I just want to say the first thing that comes to mind is when I take action.
Right. And when is that?
Now, in the present.
Right. Katrina, do you agree?
Yes.
How do you know? How do you know that's true?
Well, because that's what I've been doing since I've been watching the videos, and like just doing the Facebook Live before, and I recognize like I would say I'm just uncomfortable, but I'm gonna do it anyway. And I kept doing it and doing it, and I'm more consistent now. I still feel uncomfortable, but it's not as bad. So it's like once I started doing it, that's when I see the changes, and even I feel more confident just by doing it.
Absolutely. So how do you know that it's making a change for you?
It has improved my self-confidence a lot, which I was lacking before.
Okay. Basically what I did here a little bit with both of them is walk them through a bit of a question progression. Okay. It's not a big deal, but it's a huge deal. It's one of these ones that's a little thing. It's like John's stuff that he shared earlier, where he gets and starts tracking himself, and all of a sudden his demeanor, his self-confidence, his mood, all these indicators start improving. Okay, so he knows. So Katrina, you're starting to know, right?
Yes, and I'm beginning to recognize the things that I'm doing, and I'm giving myself, like I would say, I'm proud of myself for doing this, because a few weeks before I couldn't even make myself do them. So I'm trying to recognize the progress I'm making, which is helping me with my self-confidence.
What are you doing specifically to recognize your improvement?
Well, on your the videos you said, or one of the homework is like to write down the things that I'm journaling it.
Yes.
So I've been writing like the success I've done today is I did the Facebook Live, and I would write the dates, and I've been writing things down so I'll remember them.
Okay, so everybody we'll just work with that one, because that's a great real world example between Katrina and myself. And how do you, as a result of writing them down, what happens when you write them down? And listen to my question, people. Listen to it. Okay. So you Katrina, you don't have to listen to it. You just have to answer. That's
Yeah.
the part of being the guinea pig. There's less work, actually.
Well, if I remember from what I've been watching, it becomes externally verifiable for me. It's like I can see the progress I'm making, because I tend to forget, and that's when I start beating myself up. I don't recognize. If I recognize it today, and I'll forget about it, so it's like more tangible for me, and I can see it, so that when I have bad days, then I can come back and read them, and then makes me feel better.
Absolutely true. Okay, so anybody want to take a stab at what question progression is all about?
Going deeper.
Yes. How?
You're like extracting the answers you want us to, I don't know, like you're helping us recognize what you want us to recognize, or something like that. I don't know.
I do. That's true. I could take this in about, well, not a million, but probably 10 to 20 different directions right this second. But one of them here is, I'm getting you to do your work rather than me telling you you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
Okay, so am I giving her kudos, like patting her on the back, saying, great work, everything is going great? Am I doing that?
No. You're
No.
teaching us how to think and recognize so that when we're
Hold it
by
2 seconds. I want to go back to what you just said at the start here. I'm teaching you how to think.
yes.
Okay, though, like teaching how to think.
How do you think, Katrina?
Yeah, good question, Trevor. Great question.
Now I'm beginning to learn. I'm learning how to ask myself questions. So
Bingo.
there are times that when I'm like getting frustrated, I would say, is this effective? If it's not effective, it's just a waste of energy.
Yay.
Well,
So
it gets back to people don't argue with their own information. And so if you were doing all the kudos, it wouldn't be as effective as teaching her how, because now she's not going to argue with herself.
correct. And when there isn't any arguments to be had, when there are no arguments, there's just a statement of fact that is identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable, and the identification is externally verifiable on top of that. There's nothing there. All those 4 conditions are true. There's nothing left for me to be able to do except give her a positive and reinforce what she already knows to be true. There's a 100% proof that she's just given herself, and it doesn't actually take me to do it. It just allows her to know, yeah, I did good. But it's not like, wow, Blair said I did great. Wow. You know, it's not the wow thing to Blair. Like, you're not going all gaga and smiling and going, oh my God, Blair said I did a great job. Like, a lot of gurus are wanting you to fawn after them and sort of go after them. That's bullshit. That doesn't empower you.
Right.
Okay, that feeds my ego. But this isn't about me. This is all about you. We have to get you so that you can make small shifts in your thinking, so that you can actually apply the mind models, which enables you to get the clarity you need. Did you notice that everything that you were sharing with us got clearer and clearer and clearer every time?
Yes.
And you need that level of clarity in order to accomplish your goals faster. True or not true?
True.
How do you know?
What makes that true?
Yeah. Spot on, Trevor.
Did you
What
hear me,
makes that
Katrina?
true?
What makes that true?
With me?
Yes.
Well, a month ago, I wanted to give up on the elevation program. I was very confused about what I want to do. And then I was thinking, like, maybe this is not for me, maybe. And then when I started watching the videos and then started applying and journaling it, that's when I realized, like, oh, this is what I really want. So I'm going to focus on what I want to do now, because I've always done that. Like, I've always second guessed my decisions, and I realized, like, it's not effective. That's why I've been stuck for years. So now I'm writing things down, and I always use is this effective? If it is not effective, then what do I need to do to change this? So I'm doing that, even like the smallest things that I do now, because I want to practice it. I want it to stick.
Yeah. Now, the only point of improvement I can make is when you ask that question, I'd like you to make one slight adjustment.
Okay.
Instead of saying, what do I need to do? It's what might I do differently?
Okay.
Jamie, it was like on the tip of your tongue, right?
Yeah. The magic words.
3 of them. Well, there's a secret 4th, and the 4th is differently.
Now.
Yeah, that's correct.
Well, no, now is always now. So, it's getting to the present, and it's moving to the present. So I want to go back and sort of summarize the magic words into question progression. We haven't gotten into question progression deeply, although we have done it. Okay, we've already done a complete question progression. Okay, Dwayne, you want to go out there and you want to share something about mind models?
Yes.
Then start understanding how to talk to your audience. Okay, and ask them questions. Where do you start? Where did Katrina start?
Is that a question for me
Yeah,
now?
that's a question to you. Where did she start?
She started-
This is
Your turn.
yeah, Katrina. I told you before, you're going to have it easy. These guys, the rest of everybody here, they're going to have to work.
She started by making a decision, a conscious decision to move forward.
No, she didn't.
She didn't.
No, that's not her story.
Oh, okay.
Even if she disagrees with it, I know it's not her story because that's not how it works. That's not how brains think. She consciously knows she made a conscious decision to move forward at some point in there, but it wasn't the beginning. So what was the beginning? Katrina, what was your beginning? Where did you start realizing you were going to change? Actually, I got a retracted word. Where did you start in your change?
When I made the decision that I don't want to be stuck anymore, and then I started changing how I think. I started asking myself questions.
Hold it right there, right at that moment.
Yeah, that's a different question.
Until you ask different questions, you cannot move forward.
Which is why the different is the fourth word.
Yes.
Got it.
And it's actually what makes.
It's an example of what makes different a fourth word. There's a
Not why. It's what makes
Makes it right.
what makes it. Because why will force you back into the past. Whys will generate reasons, excuses, and rationalizations and hold you stuck in the past. Okay, so we don't want to go to why.
Right.
Almost never, but there are a few exceptions. Marketing materials, sometimes it's fine to use why because that relates to your customer because they're stuck and you need to use language that they relate to.
I'm drawing a blank here. I keep thinking different is one of the three magic words, and you're talking about it being the fourth. What review for me the first three?
which ones do you remember?
Okay.
What might I do differently now?
No, specifically.
Oh, what specifically? Okay. Got it now. There we go.
That's a little different than the pat on the back we were seeing earlier.
Yeah, a little punishment there.
But he still has a smile on his face.
That's so cool.
Okay, so with that specifically, and think the opposite of specific, where did Katrina start?
In the present.
No, she didn't.
What's the opposite of specific?
Unspecific.
General.
Right, general. So was Katrina knowing exactly what to do?
No.
No.
No. She had
Where most people start, is it specific or general?
Very general.
Very general. Not like, and that is like from an expert who knows this. Intuitively, it's very general. Okay? And we hold ourselves stuck. We got to understand, see, all of this research that I did for 17 and a half years, actually, of research to bring up and discover mind models. All of this stuff was research based on the government of Canada and their studies that spent $42 million in 5 years but it still was a little gapped out because it wasn't designed to do the stuff we needed it to do. So I needed to figure out other areas, other things. When specifically does change happen? When does it happen? Marilyn, when do you think change happens?
When
Yes,
I
guys.
make new choices.
And when is that?
After I've asked myself new questions. After I've
Sure.
asked new questions. And that's what, I was stuck not asking myself new questions.
Yeah, you're right. You
And-
will be, and you will probably still stumble back into it until you get this super clear in your mind. Because that's one of the things that mind models do. They enable you to gain the clarity needed to accomplish your goals faster. But to get the clarity you need, you have to get it down specifically. So when does change happen? When? There's only three times: past, present, or future. Which one of those
Okay.
three? When can you make change happen? Can you change your
In the
past?
present.
Okay.
No.
Can you
So it
change your
happens in the
future?
present.
Right. Can
No.
you change your future?
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Well,
Why
you
you're
don't, well, I don't know. I don't know what the
Can
future
you
is.
change your future?
Future. No.
Great. That's correct. Dwayne, you said yes.
That was John.
Oh, John, you said yes? Okay.
No, he's lying.
Oh.
Ventriloquist.
So, Dwayne, when can you change your future?
Now.
There you go. So when you said that you can change your future, and the only time that you can change your future is now, then do you see how that it always links back to now?
Yes.
If for anybody else out on the call right now, or anybody on Facebook or wherever, this is so critical. Because until you know that you can only change in the present, then you're stuck in this present future confusing loop, which is thinking you can change it some other time, but you never do the work now needed to cause things to happen. When you get to your new now, things will be different, only because you've changed it in the present. The present is the only time that you have the power to shift your trajectory. Think of this as a thought experiment. It's sort of like you're doing a long jump, okay? And you are running along the track, you hit the board and you leap. Guaranteed, where you land is predetermined by how you left that board. How much effort, energy, everything is done. Like there are some slight, like at the Olympic level, yes, you can stretch out slightly more in the air. You can do a few other things, but your trajectory is predetermined. Gunshot, cannon, whatever. Where that thing lands is predetermined by the angle of the shot, by the wind, and by the amount of energy in the charge. And they know within inches where that will land, simply because the physics of it make it so. So once that cannon is shot, once you leap in the air, your landing is predetermined. So the only place you can actually make a change happen is right at the point where you left the ground, or where you are about to fire that cannon. If you don't get your calculations right, you cannot put that shell on target. Okay? And there's nothing you can do about it in the air. Okay? So those are just the physics of it. And we as human beings must also follow physics. We are not exempt. Now, we think we are because we have a thing called an imagination. We can hope, we can assume, we can dream different possible endings. But until we start doing what Katrina was doing, what John started doing, what everybody else here is starting to get themselves more and more into what's effective or ineffective, not what's right or wrong, what's effective or ineffective, writing those down and tracking their results so that they actually see their own changes, so they know what they do will generate a different direction, so that they know they've changed, as opposed to hoping that they've changed. They're getting a different result because their behaviors have shifted now, and they've tracked that. So they can see that incremental change. And the problem with that, as well as the possibility, is when you don't make the change, when you don't document the changes, you just rely on your memory, and everybody's memory is flawed to some degree, because we hope, we dream, we think. But when you write it down and you go back, you can't kid yourself into thinking you're doing worse than what you are or better than what you are. It's just what is. And those were present moments that you tracked, and you know that during those moments, these are the decisions you made. And the weird thing is, if you do them in small enough chunks, the vast majority of the time, you do things that are incremental and effective. And when you don't, you have a very precise record of where it didn't work and what to change. You become empowered. I didn't do it. I just showed you a model. I taught you a mind model, a set of mind models that actually start making these things happen, because the question progression must go. We cannot start with the detail until we shift out of general. We always make generalizations. Okay, we have to make generalizations because we don't have all the data all the time. So those generalizations are part of our ability to make assumptions, which we need but abuse frequently. And that abuse is, we assume we're worse than we are. We assume we're better than we are. We assume that life will magically be better or worse. But the power is not in the assumption. The power is in what is effective and what is actually happening now. Because we can change that intentionally. That's where the magic is. That's where the power is. Okay? So we go to present from general. And what I did with Katrina is I moved her from generalizations, and I kept on asking her in different words to be more specific. And she shared her story from the past, and then I asked her to relate it to the present, to how she is now. This is the whole thing right here. Okay? It's just that simple. It's not more complicated. But when we know the pattern that our mind and everybody else's mind will default into it, that gives us a huge advantage, because we can listen for that question progression. And we can question, as I did with Katrina, more specifically to get her to the destination. And what is the destination that matters? Marilyn, I'm going to pick on you. Marilyn, what do you think the destination is? It's a generic one. If you get it, that's fine. If you don't, that's okay.
You've set for yourself.
Sorry, you were breaking up there rather badly. I
The
didn't.
goal that you set for yourself. Oh,
Right, the goal that you set for yourself.
okay.
Yeah, but not
Yeah.
quite. That's the one that people think will be good, but may not be. So, John, what do you think? That goal, what do you think we need to move ourselves to?
A different outcome.
Yes, but that's what we always want.
And more effective
Wait,
outcome.
sorry. So what do you think that?
Predetermined outcome.
Sorry, what?
A predetermined outcome.
A predetermined outcome. Well, first of all, I'm not a fan of outcomes. I'm a fan of results. But that's okay. We'll get, that's another complicated, that's another set of mind models, actually. But outcomes are fine. They happen. And that's what normally happens. Outcomes always happen. Results is what we want. Okay. And predetermined outcome is maybe like playing horseshoes and hand grenades. Okay. Close counts, but not really when you're running business and getting in charge of your life. Jamie, you're up.
Okay, so it's gotten all muddled, so just ask me the question again.
So the question is, what do you think? What is the need? Where do we need to go for her to get to every time under all circumstances and situations? Where do you need to get to?
I think you need to get to using your word, but an effective result.
And when is that effective result?
When you have taken action that is now built in.
You guys are going to kick yourselves when I tell you the answer, because it's so freaking simple.
When you've made
when,
a change.
when can you get effective results?
When you've changed.
Present.
Sorry?
What
Say
was
it
that,
again, Katrina?
In the present.
Right.
And
That's right.
what's another word for the present?
Now.
Right. So how do you move yourself? What is the number one thing that you need to do, John?
Get in the now.
Right. And what did your task that you modified from my suggestion, but you did, what did that do to you? In each one of those 15-minute chunks, what did it do to you?
Okay. Yeah, it's much more present focused. It's being. In fact, I even put a focus rating in it. I didn't tell you that, but yes, being focused on one thing for that little chunk of time. That was part of it. It was much easier to stay focused in that one thing because it was smaller. I didn't, and distractions could easily just be put aside for that period of time. And then, okay,
well,
now
15 minutes, it's no big deal.
Right, make it small enough. It doesn't matter.
So is that like being what they call mindful when you're being?
Yes and no. I've read different things on mindfulness, so I'm cautious to say yes, but it is, but it isn't in some versions of mindfulness.
Okay. Because I think of mindfulness as being in the moment, and being.
That's one argument for mindfulness. The other one is
very present in what you're doing, no matter what it is.
Right, but other people's mindfulness are in the present, looking forward, and that forward thinking is really critical.
Yeah.
Okay. So for this one, I wouldn't argue the generic version of mindfulness.
Right.
I would argue a being in the present enables us to self-evaluate now.
Yeah.
In the near present. Like, you look at the last 15 minutes, you self-evaluate, you know what you did, you've written it down, you can go back to it anytime. It's got great data points that were verified at the time on the spot and proven to yourself. So now that if you get a disruption in how you think you are feeling about things, you can go back to it and prove it and get that thing back, just like mindset promises, but never delivers.
So Katrina, are you writing down about every 15 minutes? when you're
Um,
taking your notes? Just curious.
Not every 15 minutes. Like if I set a goal that I need to do today, and if I did it, I put the date and then what I did, and I wrote their success. And then there are some questions that because I've been watching his videos, there are questions there and I write the answers. So it's like all here so that I can go back and review, especially when I'm struggling, then it gets me out of my funk.
Cool, thank you.
It's a different strategy. It's not a 15-minute strategy.
Right.
John is very specific with his issues of control. So, I mean, and this works with somebody who needs to be in control and enjoy his life. Well, he gets to do both. This is not about changing the nature of a person or saying one thing is better than another. It's saying mind models are incredibly adaptable to each person. That's how come they're a model. They're not a mind fact. They're not a mind set, a set way that your mind should be. It's not about setting it. It's about modeling something, and models always are adaptable. Otherwise, it's not a model. It's a set. It's a proven fact. It's something else. But mind models are those things that they're like, it's like physics for your brain. When you start understanding mind models, you know that physics is true in the universe. We don't understand it all, but when we start understanding little bits and pieces, we start recognizing that everything is identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable with physics. Everything is. But so are mind models. Because just like modeling gravity, gravity works everywhere. It doesn't work identically everywhere because everything has its own gravitational pull. Everything does. So it's always different with everything. It's not everything is planetary size or person size or mountain size. And it impacts things in exactly the same way, but differently to everything because everything is different. So it impacts it differently.
Okay.
Okay. So it's sort of weird, but true. It's one of those realities that if you have enough gravity, you can bend light, but you're not supposed to be able to bend light, but you can with gravitational lensing. So when you have question concepts or a mind model that's question progression, you can guide people through a process to help them see themselves more clearly, get to see and feel the feelings because okay, Katrina, remember when I got you getting more and more closer to being present with the response? I don't know, and see, okay, did you just see her face? She nodded yes, and she put on a little half smile. Because I was going to say she started smiling more. Okay, that is her getting present with her changes and owning them. Okay, that doesn't happen, just asking her to be present. John, when I did that with you earlier, I didn't even teach the lesson yet, didn't even bring it up. But when you did it, with yourself, you actually did the question progression on yourself about how big everything was, and you brought it smaller and smaller and smaller and got it to a now size, 15 minutes, and then a rapid evaluation at the end and know where you were. And your mood changed, according to Connie. An externally verifiable thing. It's flattening out. It's all of that. And you're smiling again. How come? What's going on, John?
Clarity.
Bingo.
Oh, good word. Mm-hmm.
But that's what it is. That's how come when I pondered for not that many hours, but quite a few hours, Trevor and I went over this stuff and we're working through it. And I'm going, what is the one thing that mind models provide people? And it's clarity. And it removes that clutter and that mess from your brain. And all of a sudden, your brain does not have to work so hard. And it's not bogged down by all the crap you've been dealing with it and all this negative self-talk that you've been telling yourself, it starts blowing all of that stuff out. And it enables you to gain the clarity you need so that you can accomplish your goals faster and more easily. I mean, it's just that simple. And the byproduct of that is self-confidence, self-worth, self-esteem, being able to achieve your goals, your focus, your intention. So much easier with less effort because you can start decompressing from all the clutter. Like Katrina, your whole thing of when you were in like massive amounts of self-doubt and second guessing when I profiled you. Correct? True or true?
Yes, true. 100%. That's why I gave you 100 then.
Yeah. And I go, it's like, oh my God, it's like, what a cross to bear, what a burden to bear.
Yeah.
But it's self-imposed. But we don't have a knowledge base, a behavior base to be able to move ourselves away from this. We don't have it. It's not in our culture. And that was, again, the promise of mindset, but not what mindset delivered. So this is that transformational piece that actually transforms.
Could you
Okay,
show
and
your
this,
little chart again?
Well, no, don't show it yet. Don't show it yet, Blair.
okay, go for it.
So what do you guys think question progression is? So you've seen it. He's gone through it. Let's see if you guys can, what you remember. So
Very good, Trevor. Very
what is
good.
question progression?
It's a
Why
funnel.
you pay him the big bucks?
Okay, so it's a funnel. Now, what are the steps of that funnel, Dwayne?
The general to more specific to present to now.
Bingo, 100%. You got
That's
it.
right.
Oh, good. I was right. Huh.
Actually, I think this will share it too.
Ah, there you go. Good job. That's it.
Cool.
Yeah, it is. So if you want, you can take a screenshot of that if you need to.
Nah, I've already drawn it.
Good. But anyway, that's the point. When you actually, let me make you another point here. So if you think about general, how can you be positive with a general thing? Like, I mean, feel good about general. Can you, when you generalize something, do you feel much with a generalization?
Stress.
What kind of stress with a generalization? Fill me in, Dwayne.
The uncertainty, the outcome.
Hold it. Gonna challenge you there. You feel something, but what did you go with the uncertainty? What are you uncertain about?
The outcome.
The outcome. What are you specifically uncertain about the outcome about?
Whether it'll be effective or ineffective.
Absolutely true. And Lisa says overwhelm. Totally true for overwhelm. But general is big. So overwhelm is common.
And
You
it's
feel the
vague.
negative. Do you notice how you don't feel, you're not stating anything that's positive? I generally feel great. Woohoo. I'm generally having a great day. Like it, that's a lie.
Well, Janet says on here that generalization is vague, and that's a good way to.
Absolutely true. It's very vague. What else? Okay, can you take that one down, Trevor?
Sure. I just, there we go.
Thanks
Should
so
be
much.
back.
So that is a big deal when it starts shifting like that. And yes, it is vague. It is unclear. it is so many things that are not as effective as they need to be. So that whole piece is a mess, in short. Okay, so what makes it a mess?
Well, Janet just said it's non-committal.
Absolutely. What else, Janet? And Janet, you're doing a great job. How come you're not? You get on here next time. And Lisa.
Janet was asking if we were doing profiling, actually.
Oh, okay. We will shortly. Okay.
I think it was Janet.
Anyway, my point here is that generalizations cannot be acted on because they're general. I feel things are going to change. Very vague, very general, right? What changes? Nothing.
You stay right there.
Except time. You stay stuck and nothing changes. It's like trying. Do or do not. There is no try. Blair Dunkley, AKA Yoda.
So basically, Blair, what
Yeah.
we did was we used the 3 magic words to get you to also question and do progression.
Correct.
Right.
Well,
I mean,
thank you for tying that in.
Yeah.
So what did you need to do in order to make that happen? Trevor, you were going to ask something?
I was just going to fill people in on so they can see the question progression in what you did last week, in case they missed it. But we can do that afterwards.
Sure. Okay. So, Jamie, you noticed something. What happened? How did you have the breakthrough?
Well, the fact that the reason I was stuck is because it was so general and it was too big.
Right.
And so talking about getting it from general to more specific to present to now was how those questions got me there.
Correct.
So you've got I'll get my notes. So you got like, what might you do? What might you do specifically? What might you do specifically now? Then moves you into the
Thought funnel.
progression. So,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, John, that's exactly the same process I did with you to get you to chunk it down because it was very large.
Right. And I'm realizing as you're talking about this, you can't act generally.
You can't.
You can only act.
It's impossible.
So
you cannot do a general behavior. There is no ability for a human being to ever do a general behavior.
right.
Exactly.
It has to be specific. I can stand up, I can sit down, but I can't generally stand up or generally sit down.
You've also got to do it now. So it's got to be specific and now.
Yes.
Right.
You can't take an action in the future. As soon as the future comes up, it's now again.
Yep.
Okay.
See, we can't actually get out of this present moment ever. So the only thing we can play with until we invent time machines that actually can go forward and back, which is, from everything I know, is not possible to go back. It's only possible to go ahead, but then you can't come back. So
Then you're stuck.
yeah, then you're stuck in a future that whatever. Anyway, the reality here is you go in one direction and it's an arrow of time. And that arrow of time is we can shift that arrow where it points only if we're in the present. And Katrina, your language was constantly second guessing yourself and looking backwards. And now you're in the present and now you're shifting it.
Yes,
Now you're in control of you again.
that's true.
And Marilyn, the same thing back to your, not so much your profile, but how you see things. The more you stay rooted in your present ability to transform yourself now, to change now, to choose now, when you make that choice in the moment, life starts changing.
Yep. And I've experienced that. I'll do that and I'll be focused and then I'll lose it. But I know it works. And sometimes I struggle with getting that presence back and working on the now.
It's not, okay, the whole thing here is, again, do what some version of Katrina and John. Start small. And how you do that is you say, okay, I want to accomplish this one thing today. And if I just get this one thing done, then it's a good day.
Yes,
okay?
that's exactly what I have to do.
Yeah, we all have to do this. We all have to have wins in our lives. We all have to know what it is. Okay, I'm working on a bathroom project. Okay, I'm renovating my bathroom. And we're going to go way over our estimated time. But I've got this here as a priority in my life. I've got 2 businesses that I'm running, this webinar that I'm doing, and that rental project. Okay. And I go, what's reasonable? Not how come I'm failing? I go, what's reasonable? And I use the reasonable man theory. Okay. I think I've mentioned this before here, but reasonable man theory came up in British common law, and it's what a reasonable man, not a realistic man, because realistic man only lives in my brain and is however I dream it to be, however I think it could be, it is, because it only exists in my brain. So when it's existing in my brain as a realistic expectation, time does not exist in your brain. Time does not exist in your thoughts. Or if it does, you have the ability to distort it massively, and usually do. So the reality here is reasonable man. If getting one thing done today on the bathroom is a reasonable thing, then I'm good. And I don't have to beat myself up because I'm reasonable. Exactly. Keeps me from judging and starts getting me to evaluate what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And it's evaluate, not judge. You know, and most people, oh, Katrina, Marilyn, you're still some, but you're getting better. Katrina, huge improvement on the judging, huge improvement, language, like all of that stuff that I profiled in you before, like you second guessing yourself, like up the wazoo and back again. It's like, okay, that's like, you know, from actually off the scales, my hands can't go wide enough with them. Like it's huge to this big. Okay. Yeah, we all do a little bit. It's not terrible that we do a little bit, but keep it down to a little bit and know when we're doing it. Evaluate our judgments, because that allows us to figure out directions that we have not yet explored and don't have data points. So Judgment 2.0 is about exploring on the edge of things. We have to make judgments sometimes because we don't have the facts. So we can't evaluate. We have to say, gee, it sort of feels like going in this direction would be a good one. Great. So let's do that. May the force be with you. And the force is your emotional self, how you feel. And the more that you evaluate, the less likely that emotional self will be negative. It will actually give you incentive and create drive and create excitement and opportunity. And when you start perfecting some of the mind models, you're going to start going into an 80-20 rule. And the 80-20 rule is 80% of the time, you're going to develop excellence according to the mind models. And excellence according to the mind models is 80% of the time, you do it very well to a very good standard. Not an excellent standard, not a perfectionist standard, just very well. A very good standard, okay? 20% of the time, you push yourself so that you know what you did not get you there, and you failed mostly intentionally. And that's failing fast, falling forward, because you've got to find out how to fail effectively. and how to do it in small groups. And John, that's one of the things that you're starting to figure out too, is you're just on the tip of failing fast, falling forward, because you've got it down to a small enough time frame, a small enough chunk that you can try it out for 15 minutes, see if it works for you. And if it didn't work for you, fine. Then find out something else and chunk that one in. Make sense, John?
Yes, it does.
Cool. So that's how we fail fast, falling forward. Another mind model. Okay. Okay.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome, guys. It's fun having all of you guys on here. I enjoy this a ton. So thank you for
He's smiling. Can you tell?
Yeah, I'm just like beaming.
Thank you so much.
It's
You're
fun.
welcome.
Hey,
Well,
I'm here every week. I
Well-
just want to help out. That's what I want to do here. And
Well,
I
I
want
know all this is effective because for the first time in over a year, I can actually see my desk.
Yay! Progress.
wow, that's very cool. So
That is literally true.
wow, that's very cool. That's very cool. Organization is one of the other things. Yeah, it's totally interesting to notice all of these shifts, these small externally verifiable shifts that we can start seeing in ourselves and doing.
Yeah,
So-
that's interesting because this morning I had like several things I had to do, and I've been piling them up and hadn't done to take something to the post office. And you know, it fills your head. I mean, because you still have them, and so this morning I got up and said, we're doing this. And I went and did everything I had to do, got it to the post office, and did a live on the way, because I walked to the post office, and I did a live on the way, matter of fact, and I told everybody they should get on tonight.
Okay, cool. Keep on promoting this, guys. I need all the people on here that we can get, because, you know, just spread the word.
Yeah.
Like, tell people what this is all about, how powerful. Like, I mean, am I telling you hogwash? Is this stuff powerful?
Yeah, it's very powerful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Very helpful.
again, a little bit about this, just, you know, so what specifically have you guys seen has been the most, the top thing that you've done or seen as a result of starting to apply just a few mind models? This isn't a lot. There's a lot of them, but these are just a few. So what is it that you guys are seeing? Wait.
I'm moving forward now instead of always looking back, accepting that it doesn't have to be perfect.
There you go.
See, just do it.
Yeah.
So I'm getting a lot more accomplished than I was getting done.
Nice. Nice.
That's
Very
what
good.
it's supposed
Very,
to-
very good.
Yeah.
Bad is better than nothing.
Right.
Okay, so bad is actually good, because doing something poorly is better than doing nothing at all, because you have nothing to evaluate when you don't do anything.
That's
Okay.
very freeing. Very freeing.
Very freeing. Yes, it is. Because when you do something poorly, you can improve on it. When you do nothing, you can't improve on nothing. I mean, it's stunningly simple,
Yeah.
but it's empowering as all get out, and it is so true. So
Well,
make mistakes.
Again, Blair, I think that for me, the powerful part is that it gives you the steps, because it's one thing to be able to say, you know, I've said it before, you just do it. Well, no, you just don't do it. It's there's steps in there, and this is those steps that make it you know, repeatable, verifiable, and duplicatable. But so it's very freeing, because you then know the steps. It's not a guess. It's not.
And the framework, because you just said the framework of identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable.
Right.
When you think about that, it sort of covered everything off in those 3 simple steps,
Mhm.
which mindset never did. Mindset is one thing yet. You know, like, I haven't accomplished that yet. Okay, fine, nice. But most people, about half the population will take that as a negative and the other half will take it as a positive. So 50% of the people will get some level of benefit and the others will be right back where they were. Unfortunately. Yet mind models, identifiable, repeatable, duplicatable, and you can evaluate it.
Right.
And it's externally verifiable. Like Katrina said, when she starts going and externally verifying, you start getting real world changes. Okay. The more that you externally verify, the more you get real world changes. Real world changes is you feel better, you smile, your mood's flatten out. Hey, John.
Yeah.
You don't go off. And when you start doing that, you'll start going from like this kind of mood to this kind of mood. Like you notice like it's sort of going up and down, but going in an upward trajectory, the trend will be up and you'll start having successes. That's how come a dear friend of mine, Tyler, used to say while I was in one of my interviews, I used to screw with his mind to help him transform. And, you know, yeah, these are how you screw with people's minds in a very, very effective way, but you screw with them very specifically so that they are in control. Not me. This isn't about me. This is about you. You are the hero in your own story. And you're just starting to scratch the surface with these minimal few mind models. You're starting to scratch the surface of transforming yourselves. That's how come I did Rewiring Your Mind for Wealth, because there's 63 mind models in there, all focused on wealth. So you want to screw with your mind and see how other people, because it's just like I'm doing with this. I'd have 5 or 6 people on stage. Well, actually 3 to 5 people on stage, and I'd work with them and show them the mind models. And that's how come I got, in the first 10 people that bought the course, 6 of them eventually tracked me down, but 4 of them almost immediately said, Blair, you don't know how much this has changed my life. And it's like, you know, in a week or two, because it's a lot of hours, it's 15 hours of video and a 210-page book. And I'm not meaning to do a sales pitch. I'm just trying to tell people the facts here. I want people to buy it. However, I'm not asking you to buy it, but if you want to, please, I won't stop you because it's high value for the price. So go out there, take a look at it at rewiringthemind.com and just go down to product and it's there. So, you know,
It's my next purchase.
Cool.
Yeah,
Thank you.
only on the 5th video and it's making changes already in my life.
You're already on the 5th video. You're not even off day 1 then.
That's day 1 on the 5th video.
Nice.
Yeah.
And it's already, I know. Well, what's his name? Rory. Rory called me on the 2nd or 3rd video that he watched and he said, Blair, I just had to track you down. I just had to call you. This is the biggest change I've had in my life forever. Like I used to want to run off and go late at night. I'd go buy myself a pizza and leave my family and kids there because we didn't have any money and I just needed to drown my sorrows in food, not drink. He doesn't drink. So he's a pizza guy. So he'd go out and buy a pizza. So anyway, but it changed him like in 3 videos, like not saying that that'll happen for everybody, but it does happen. And anyway, it's just cool. And thank you. 5 videos. I just 5 videos.
The other 5.
Yeah, the other 5. So that's cool. Okay. So we have time to do 1 profiling session. I will do 1.
Janet's asking.
Okay. So Janet, are you still here? And if you are, yes, she is. And we're going to move you guys back. But you know what? Here's a thing for those of you that were panelists tonight. First of all, thank you. Feel free to get you guys back on. The more that we can get you on, the more effective it is. the second thing here is start listening to not only how I'm saying, but how the people that come on are listening, so that you can hear how other people are talking, how their brain is processing. And you can then ask questions differently. In fact, I'm really tempted to offer a high level course on becoming mind model coaches.
Me,
Would
me,
you?
me.
Okay, we have 4. Okay. Well, that is something that I would be doing live in person, like probably 3 times a year. So that's what I would be doing. So just warning you about that.
That's okay.
And it would be in some kind of location, because I don't want to bring you guys up to Edmonton, Alberta in the middle of the winter. That would be brutal for some of
It's
you.
still a nice place in the summer.
It's a gorgeous place in the summer, don't get me wrong, but this November, December through to March, yeah, it sucks. If you are not used to the cold. I like winter sort of now. Less now. When I was a kid, I loved it, but I don't mind it. But I'm starting to become more in favor of warmer climes. So anyway, Janet, thank you guys. Really appreciate it all.
Bye, panelists. See ya.
Can't-
Want me to move everybody back?
Yeah, you can clear everybody out.
And
we'll
Blair, you need to evaluate my homework. Thank you.
Yes, I will. Okay, and it's on Facebook, right?
Yes, it's on your page.
Okay, thank you. Awesome. I will definitely do that. Thanks for the reminder.
Okay, I'm just moving everybody back.
Cool. Well done. Really appreciated everybody showing up today. So again, thank you to each and every one. And Daniel, you're putting up your hand too for profiling. I'm just going to be doing one, and Janet did put up her hand, and she is now here. Awesome.
Hey, Janet, you'll need to turn your audio on. Oh, looks like you got it.
Hey, Janet, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, good, good. So can you fill me in, tell me a little bit about yourself, and what would you like to be profiled on?
You know, I said I was going to be prepared for that one, but I wasn't. I've gotten 2 calls while I was on here because that's how things seem to happen. So I did some snippets with my girls all over the world. I'm a mom.
Hey, family's important. I totally get it.
I'm a mom. What do you want to know that will help me?
What do you do for a living ish? Although I think I got that one figured out, but that's okay. Go ahead. And hobbies, and what would you like to be profiled on?
Well, I'm sitting here working on a quilt while I was listening.
Cool.
I don't know what I do or what I want to be doing. We are recent empty nesters.
Okay.
And relocated. I'm just in a new space as of November, and everything in my world is out of my comfort zone right now.
Mm-hmm.
And a friend thought that this would be helpful for me.
Nice. Who is your friend, by the way?
She's on your panel.
Nice. Do you mind sharing a name?
It's Jamie.
Sorry?
Jamie.
Jamie. Nice. Nice, nice. Cool. So how was this for you? Just seeing the parts that you caught. How was it effective for you? Did you get something?
Yeah, it's about my 3rd call that I've watched in on, and I actually listened to 2 of the recordings earlier today. I initially thought, and I told Jamie that it was way over my head, but it's starting to connect.
Cool. Excellent.
Couple of things tonight were hard to wrap my head around, but I get
Which
it.
ones were?
Let's see. Oh, it was one of the last things. Bad is better than nothing.
Yes. What's difficult for you in wrapping your head around that?
Because I was taught to do everything perfectly,
Yes.
or don't do it at all.
You know what? I'm going to just chat a little bit because that's a really good one to chat about for everybody on the call and who listens to it on a recording. And then I'll profile you. Because that actually is a fairly major influencer in your life still. You're going to probably notice that people lower their expectations of what's possible for themselves. Most people do when they buy into perfection. Very few people are gifted enough with brains, with stamina, with all the right stuff to be able to go, I can afford to be a perfectionist because I'm smart enough to figure it out virtually every time. I am smart enough to make enough money or was born into money so that that's not a barrier, because a lot of issues are financial in life that we face. I was brought up by great parents who were incredibly supportive and engaging, and I was encouraged to explore every aspect of who and what I am. And then you can afford to be a perfectionist. The funny thing is, most people who are brought up in that way might try to be perfectionists for a little while, but it doesn't last long. And they move on very quickly to become pragmatists, to become practical thinkers and people that can move ahead in life. And they frequently go on to do very good things in life. So with you, a lot of the stuff was, can I fill you in on your profile? So what would you like to be profiled on specifically? Do you have anything, or do you just want me to go?
Well, I don't think that I can put this into use, these principles in a business sense, until I get the personal stuff straightened out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that has kept me stuck for a very long time.
Absolutely true. That's actually what I was going to profile, is that your personal beliefs are holding you back from almost everything else. And that's because you, number one, hold those beliefs as mostly being true, although they're ineffective for you. And I think you know the difference between what works for you and what doesn't work for you, but you don't evaluate it. You constantly judge, mostly because you were constantly judged. And I hear that. So in one sense, it's not exactly your fault, but that's a fair out, because you never learned how to do it differently. But the mind models are designed primarily for us to work on ourselves individually and personally, and they apply brilliantly to business. But if you think that they're not meant for you personally, it's totally not true at all. I mean, it's primarily, you got to get yourself right in order for business to succeed. And you know that. And mind models are for people who are trying to get forward in business and their personal selves, how they think, how they feel, how they act, how they walk, how they talk, how they interrelate with themselves and everybody else around them. That's what mind models are for. It's to help you make small shifts in your thinking And that's what you need. And they're always small shifts. And you don't like making small shifts. You're looking for dramatic shifts, big time shifts, knock it out of the ballpark shifts, and these home runs that just don't work, because that's not how life works. And then you knock yourself down. And then every time you don't have one of those out of the park home runs, you get to knock yourself down. And I don't know if you notice this, but if you look at how you knock yourself down, it's incremental. And you take a chunk out of yourself, and another chunk, and another chunk, and another chunk, and another chunk. And it's always incremental. But that's not a bad thing, because it means that you can do the incremental building back up again. Because success is change is in knocking yourself down or building yourself back up, is done in exactly the same way. It's done incrementally. That's how come there are small steps. They're not, this is one thing that you do that transforms your life instantly and makes everything better all at once. It's not. But I mean, Katrina today, John, all of these are just small little shifts. And in one small little area, it feels better, which means they got in control of their life incrementally. And until we start being willing to incrementally shift, we're doomed to being stuck, because we rarely have those out of the park home runs, especially when we're not practiced. And the problem is when we do have them, they fall away and we lose them, and the magic is gone again. And we get more depressed, and we fight that. And we don't want to be, but we don't know how not to be. But mind models show us the way out, because they're incremental. Just as you knock yourself down, you can build yourself up. It's all incremental. It's not constant. And it's just practicing the same behaviors that you practice to be ineffective with yourself. The opposite of that behavior is exactly like judge yourself and say, I can't do it. Great. Evaluate yourself and figure out how you did it, how you were successful. You're a quilter. You're quilting. How many quilts have you made? Is this your first?
No, probably about sixth.
Cool. And do you do square quilts, or what kind of quilts do you do?
Yeah, square quilts, lap quilts, big quilts.
Okay, and those square quilt, like there's a quilting thing where you make squares, right? And
right.
And then you stitch them all together.
Right.
Right. I know quilters. I have some. Oh, very nice. Very good work. So there you go. You do that probably because it's incremental, and you do something that you can prove to yourself, I did that effectively. Look at that. And then you can show people. People will concur. It's perfect. At least it's highly effective.
You mentioned something earlier tonight, that some people have nothing to draw on. They've not had anything to draw on. And that's something that I've tried to get across to therapists, counselors, coaches in the past couple of years. I feel like, gosh, I'm 50 and just figuring this stuff out, 50-ish.
Yeah.
And it seems really sad to me, but I guess better late than never.
Absolutely.
And I've always felt that they say, just do it, just do this or do that. And I'm like, none of that's natural. There is nothing to draw on hold it.
Don't put draw on and unnatural together in the same thing, because you're blending constructs in your brain. So I'd like to undo those two. So number one, I'd like you to consider Can I work with you on this right now? Because
Sure.
okay, great. So let's figure out how to think about it more effectively, okay? Okay, so what's one thing that you'd like to shift? Just one. What's an unnatural thing that people say, just do it to you, and you're supposed to magically be able to do it? And by the way, everything that you just said, I completely agree with. That's bogus. Just do it. You know,
It would be fear.
what fear specifically?
Fear of the person that instilled all this in me.
Okay, are they alive or dead?
They're alive, and that's my block, is how do you do all this improvement and change yourself when
Are you living with that person right now?
No.
Right. Okay. How
But
physically?
they're still in my life. They're still
no,
in
no.
my life.
I get it. I get it. That's okay. Let's not clutter it up. Let's take a look at the facts, because
Okay.
you're going to tell me your story that you've practiced extremely well. Okay. And I know I've heard this story thousands of times from different mouths, and I know I have to interrupt it. Okay. I have to interrupt it, because if I don't, you will go down and you will prove to yourself that it's completely impossible to change. And you've got this down. You will win at getting stuck and depressed. Okay. Right?
I really want to change it, though.
I hear you. I hear you. And thank you for stopping, because sometimes people don't. And that's how stuck they are. And I know instantaneously that you actually do want to change. So I'm going to help work with you some of these stops. So first of all, for everybody that was on the call, listening to myself and Janet, using our mind model taught tonight, how are you managing to stay stuck? So guys, throw it into your comments on here. Good job at getting her there, Jamie. Yes, really good job. Dwayne said that to Jamie. Absolutely. But the point here is, do you notice that you're general? And that your fear is based in a generalization. Do you see that, Janet? If you do or don't, just tell me what you see.
I see that in what I told you. I could get specific. I was trying to not.
I know you were, but you started with general and we're heading towards specific.
Okay.
Okay. Now, that means that you're following the mind models. Mind models can be effective or ineffective. When we use the same thought funnel using judgment, we get to judge ourselves and beat the crap out of ourselves, because we get to go from general to specific to right now, and we can terrorize ourselves with that. It works both directions really well. You know, now, if we shift this thought funnel to go, do we want to stay and judge? Lisa says she's in judgment. You're right, she is. So we want to shift it to an evaluation, but we don't want to do that quite yet. We want to give her something to evaluate, because she is not resourceful. You're not resourceful right now. You're feeling, probably, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're feeling some type of stuck. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. So you're probably feeling stuck, frustrated, and overwhelmed in different amounts.
Mm-hmm.
And you're also feeling like you're lacking the information to be able to make a move, correct?
Right.
Right. Okay. Any other feeling word you want to throw in there? Without a story?
Hurt.
Yes, a lot of hurt, a lot of pain. Yeah, that's probably a big one. And where and you're probably back into that with the person that does that, and that is a major concern for you, correct?
Yes.
Okay. There are things that you can do to manage this.
But they're clueless.
Yeah,
I've created all this in my imagination.
not fully likely. Your language is not telling me that you've made this up. Elements of this are your stuck state is you making up the stuckness, not because you're stuck, because I believe that what you actually said earlier, you don't know what to do differently. You don't have, you're resourceless. You don't have the knowledge, the data points to put it together, and nobody's helped you. And all people are saying is just do it. You know, you seem like you should know, but you don't. But that's okay, because elements of this is, you know, but I would argue you don't know how to connect your dots. So it's the same thing as being stuck and not knowing, because when you don't know how to find your resourceful state, you get stuck. That's the only result that you're allowed, because there is nothing else. When you don't know what you don't know, you actually don't know, even though you know stuff. But if you don't know you know it, what's the difference? You still don't have access to it. So it's like not knowing it.
Right.
And do you think that that's possibly true for you?
Yes.
Yeah, I would say it's highly probable, because there are things that you can do. How are your kids, daughters?
Yes, 2 girls.
Yeah, 2 girls. So with your daughters that have left and you're now an empty nester, how do you feel about them leaving? How do you feel about their likelihood of them being able to be effective and successful in their life? Low, medium, or high?
Hi.
Right. How come?
Well, one just started her grad school master's today in a new city, and the other one is in China on the other side of the world, living life.
And how do you think they got there?
God's grace.
Yes, but God works in mysterious ways, and one of those ways, he probably worked through you too. So what do you think you might have given them?
I'm not sure how they, I know I was independent, and I'm sure I passed a lot of that on. I often think they got where they are despite me. Not to spite me, but in spite of me. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And John just said she doesn't respect her past with them. I wouldn't use the word respect. I would say you don't acknowledge your past with them reasonably. It's a judgment.
He said she didn't repeat her past.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, she didn't repeat. Sorry.
I didn't. I went to great lengths to break cycles, but I didn't know what to replace those cycles with. I broke a lot of cycles.
Excellent. Excellent. So you knew that you broke cycles, and then what?
A lot of it was silence. I was left in a void. And
what's wrong with that? Is the void a effective thing or an ineffective thing?
I don't know. I never felt like I had the right words of encouragement to offer because I never received that as an example.
I understand that. I hear you.
But yet they're out there doing it. So.
Right. And so what actually happened. And you have a 2-for-2 win here. So that's 100%. You only have 2 daughters, right?
Yes.
It's 100%. Okay. So what is it that you might have done by accident that was still effective?
Well, I broke the cycles.
You did.
I consciously broke cycles. I feel like you said, at the end of the day, if you get one thing accomplished, I felt like that was one thing that I accomplished.
Yes.
In parenting.
Mm-hmm.
Giving them a love of reading. I mean, they would give up everything on earth except a book, and I broke cycles.
And how did you break cycles?
I didn't repeat behaviors like someone.
Exactly. Now, I'm going to tell you what you just said. You didn't repeat behaviors. Okay?
Okay.
Even if you did nothing, I mean literally nothing, because you didn't know what to do differently. And I know you don't get that kind of result that you just described with your kids by doing nothing. But even if you did nothing that stopped the repeating of the cycle, that is an extremely positive thing. When I'm teaching people in coach training, well, trainer training, actually, one of the lessons that I have to get people to be able to identify is it is so critical to know when to do nothing when you're training people. It is so critical. Because that gives them the opportunity to figure it out for themselves.
Well, one thinks I ruined her childhood. So perception is in there somewhere that I feel like I missed.
Absolutely. But your choice of finding the negative inside of obvious positives is interesting.
Yeah,
it's not. I'm not judging you. Don't.
No, it's a problem. I know it.
Yeah, but it's okay. Some of this is going to be theirs. Some of it's going to be yours. No parent gets off scot-free. But at the end of the day, it's 100% success because they don't have the crap that you dealt with and deal with. Okay? You made sure that it ended, that the cycle didn't repeat. Now, it doesn't mean to say that it's not different. It's just not what it was before.
I created my own.
You know what? Depending on how badly you dive into this one, if I could rewind it, I'd retake back that one sentence because I just gave you another way to beat yourself up, which is, I apologize for that. That's not my intention. My intention here is to get you to evaluate yourself and recognize the strengths that you have. And sometimes doing nothing is the best thing you can possibly ever do. And doing nothing constructively is still doing something. It's making a choice. And you made choices. You made choices not to do the things that you knew how to do. And that's a huge positive. Is it or isn't it? I mean, I should be asking you.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is. It's a huge positive. Now, can you look at that and see the power of doing nothing intentionally compared to if you put them through what you went through, where would they likely be?
Yeah, I wouldn't want them sitting here with the baggage I'm carrying right now.
Right. So you intentionally withheld the baggage that you're currently carrying.
Yes.
Right. Now, the great news is you've identified it as baggage. Metaphorically, I would argue you have packed that negative crap in bags in your brain because you don't live in it full time. The
Right.
problem is you don't know how to let it go or where to put it. Okay? And part of the problem here is I'm not really clear in your language that you know how to replace the baggage yet. So I'm a little leery about getting you to drop the baggage because that can cause people to go diving back for the baggage because they don't have anything to replace it with. Now, if you want to, you can hold the metaphor of having that baggage in your life and park it in a spot that's very close to you. You know, you probably have a closet in your mind. You can put that baggage in temporarily. You know, that's not your closet, not your bedroom closet, but a closet in your mind that you can put it in and leave it there for a bit while you go get to explore what you might do differently with your life. And you have a friend that wants to help you explore that by the name of Jamie, who suggested that you come on board and get yourself here and see what might actually happen. So you've got somebody that you can go to and find out alternatives, different ways of looking at things, and figure out, make choices about things you might like to try. This is where that, when I was talking earlier today, Judgment 2.0, which is judgment is not always bad. You just have to pick something and give it a whirl. Go out there and give it a go. And enjoy the learning curve and the failure. Because this is failing fast, falling forward. And you forgot that failing fast, falling forward. Yeah. I mean, I've said that for, oh, Jesus, over 30 years. But the reality of it is, it's just an observable truth that people who become successful have to fail more than people who aren't.
It makes a lot of sense.
It's a paradox, but it's true. If you're going to fail, you have to do a lot of it, and more than people who don't succeed in life. If you're successful, you'll fail more than people who are not successful in life.
One of those things I wish I'd heard 40 years ago. Because
yeah, but you heard it now.
Right.
And, you know, I'm going to tell you a short little story. In my very first coach, I became a coach trainer. I was 21. I was the youngest coach ever trained up to that point in time by far. Most of them had tons of experience in mental health or social services or whatever. They were generally in their 30s to 50s. And they had tons of life experience. I had tons of life experience, but not in a good way. I was bullied as a young kid, and it went on for over, well, a long time, well over a decade. And I mean, life was not fun. I can match horror stories with most people. Anyway, I became a life skills coach at ripe old age of 21, and with dyslexia. And I had a 63-year-old woman in my group. And she asked me what she should do. I tried to answer her. And that's one of the things where I realized asking questions is way more powerful than making statements. And it gives people the chance to explore their own stuff. But I didn't learn that until after I sat down and I asked Vicky to help me, because I'm trying to help a woman that is 3 times the physical life experience as me. I was 21, she was 63. She had 3 lifetimes compared to me. What gives me the right? What gives me the ability? And Vicky, who was a partner of mine at the time, and again, much older, said, Blair, go ask her those questions, because you need to hear the answer from her. So I did. I asked her. And she said, she asked me a question, Blair, were you trained to be a life skills coach? I said, yes. Do you believe that life skills works? I said, absolutely. I never got anybody to teach me anything about life skills, about coaching, about coping, about any of this stuff, or problem solving. So what gives you the right to coach me and to teach me and to show me these life skills is the fact that I never had anybody. I don't care if you're 5 years old or 95 years old, I'll learn from you. So your age is immaterial. Your knowledge and experience may not be the same as anybody else's, but that also makes it unique. And that point of view gives me something to bump up against to see if I can't find a way to improve my life. Would you please help me and share? And I go, oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah, I can do that. I can share, I can point things out. I can be honest. I can be caring. I can be empathetic. I can be frank. I can be truthful. I can be those things. And that's all she's looking for. As I think that's all you're looking for. And that's all you have to go out and do, because at my ripe old age of 63 right now, I'm in exactly the same boat, looking for new truths, new pieces of information, looking and hoping people tell me frankly and honestly what works for them, what doesn't work for them, and all these other things. And it's never changed. Except I started. And she started when she was 63. I started when I was 21, and she told me, and I repeated it back, and she gave me my light bulb moment, which was just start. And that's the path. And it's not about a perfect path. It's about starting a path. And you go, I don't know what path. I don't care. Pick one. Pick things that you hate and find out if you really hate them. Pick things that you think you'll love. You might hate them. You might actually love them too. You know, teach quilting to somebody else. Volunteer. Volunteer is, I got taught this at a very, very early age. My mom was big into volunteering with Canadian Mental Health. And at the ripe old age of 6, I was out volunteering at Canadian Mental Health, and I could call square dances. I couldn't square dance if my life depended on me or depended on it. I couldn't square dance, but I could call square dancing. And so I went out there, and a cute little 6-year-old boy calling square dancing with a bunch of older girls and guys. And it was adorable. I was told multiple times I was totally adorable. So I believed it. I believed I was adorable. And that was cute. But I could do something, and I didn't know I would like it, and I loved it. So you got to go out there and figure stuff out. You know, if you don't do things, you don't get to do more things, because you didn't get started. You got to fail fast falling forward. And some of them you're going to skin your knee on, and others you're going to go, my God, I didn't know it could be like this. And that's the nugget that you're missing out on. And you've already had life experiences so that you like this, because you know what I'm talking about is true for you, because you've been putting micro smiles on your face every once in a while, and you would relate to it, to just what I said. So these things just ring true to you, but nobody is bothered to tell you the story of how you can transform your life if you choose to. And the thing is, all that you got to do is do one thing. And I'm not going to say just do it, but you now know this stuff. And if you don't do it, it doesn't count, because you can't think your way into transforming your life. You can't. John couldn't. Katrina couldn't. Jamie, Dwayne, nobody on the panelists. Janet can't. Nobody can. You can't. You can't think your way into transforming your life. You have to do things differently to transform your life. Because life is about living. It's not about thinking. Okay? Another fact. Okay? It's a fun fact. It's obvious. It's incredibly obvious. Yet so many people who slip into depression wind up trying to think their way out of a depressed state. It does not work. It cannot work. It takes action. Okay? So you got to find something to take action on. And if you were a client of mine, an active client of mine, I would be requiring you to pick one thing and to do it this week. I don't care what it is. Doesn't matter. Just one thing. I mean, literally back in the day, I was working with this lady who was a shut-in. Her social worker would drag her out of her home, and she would close her eyes and get into the car and drive her to life skills colleges. And then she'd come upstairs in the group room. Then she'd pick her, actually, generally her brother or a relative would pick her up and drive her home. And everybody would have to go in the house to get her. So her very first task was to stand in the doorway with the doors open to be able to get out of the house and move forward. Not saying that you're a shut-in, but I go, do you notice it's a small, specific thing? Just like John, chunking it down to 15 minutes. Doing something differently and making it small enough to make it happen. And then noticing it like Katrina did, like John did, writing it down and having it, dating it. Like, I don't know if you noticed this, but Katrina said she would date it. How come? Because she would sort of timestamp this sucker of her having a success, so she could not deny it in the future. She could not take it away from herself, because we do that all the time.
Right.
And you do it to yourself in spades. I mean, in spades. You do anything that's good, and you first of all find a way of knocking it down, and secondly, you deny it that it never really happened that way, even though it was brilliant, even though you were very good at doing something. The only thing you can't do is deny that you're very good at quilting.
Whoa.
How come? Because you have a permanent record and it's stitched right in there. Permanent records are really important to pull people out of states, because they can't fudge it. They can't make it up. They can't invent a new way of seeing themselves. You invent ways to minimize your own effectiveness. Yet somebody who you were waving goodbye to, you gave a smile to, you are connected with them, and they appreciate you. That is not a look of somebody who is ineffective at doing anything effectively. Okay, that's the sign of somebody who's got a relationship or 2 or 3 or 5 or 25 in their life. And I know that you have at least 2, 3, 4. So you have Jamie, you have the person you waved goodbye to, and you have your 2 daughters. Okay, facts. And you smiled, both out of embarrassment, but out of truth too, because it's real. And you like those relationships. You enjoy them. In spite, you got to realize life isn't about perfection. And pardon me?
I've learned that.
Yeah, the hard way. But now you learned a way of figuring out how to be effective and how to actually have reasonable excellence in your life. And you're way more than reasonable excellence with quilting. You're over the top with that. And yet you try different styles of quilting. You're probably really good with a whole bunch of other crafts too, because quilting is pretty sophisticated.
It's my latest.
Yeah, it's your latest, like I said. Probably really good with a bunch of them. So what might you choose to do differently?
I need to change my inner talk, my self-talk.
Great. So what would you like to change it to?
Something more positive and non-judgmental.
Great. So I've given you words in some of these things, and if you haven't watched the webinars on them, so look at the one on effective and ineffective, and look up the other one on judgment versus or evaluation versus judgment.
Okay.
And with evaluation versus judgment, using language that says right, wrong, good, or bad is highly ineffective. Even good is highly ineffective. Because somebody who's as practiced as you are on good will find how to flip it around into bad instantaneously. Because you've trained your brain to do that. Okay, so all you now need to do is flip it around one more time to go to effective or ineffective, or works or doesn't work. Does that work for me? Yes? No? Oh, that doesn't work for me. Okay, next. So tell me something that works for you.
In relation to?
Anything, don't care.
Something that works for me.
Does quilting work for you?
Yeah, quilting works for me.
Great. What else works for you? But actually, before we move on from that, how do you know that quilting works for you? How do you know?
Very satisfying.
Satisfying. Look at that. You've got a positive in your life. You get satisfaction from quilting. Great. What else works for you?
Not a lot, I don't think.
Okay. Yeah. That's not what I asked you. What does work for you? You waved goodbye to somebody. You looked very pleasant, very whatever with that person.
Yeah, my hubby was going to bed.
Fine. So Now you had a smile on your face.
I guess he works for me. He works for both of us.
Is that effective?
Most of the time.
Great. Being in a marriage, it's never 100%, but is it at least 80% of the time? Very good.
My communication needs to be improved.
Great, but is it terrible?
I think so.
Okay. On this call, has your communication been terrible for most of this call?
Well, like you said, I think it was pretty well rehearsed.
I didn't say that.
I thought you did.
No, you did right at the start. Said,
Yeah.
I thought I had this more rehearsed.
I guess it's been okay.
So instead of saying, I guess it's been okay, can you put in the words effective, ineffective, worked, or didn't work? My communication blank was blank, or
I think it was effective.
there you go. I would agree. I think it was effective. I don't think it was totally ineffective. Okay, I think it was mostly effective. Is there room for improvement?
Of course.
Right. Is there room for improvement for my communication?
Probably everybody.
Exactly. So are you more or less in the same boat as everybody else?
Ooh, that gets into logic.
Yeah, it does. Because sometimes I got to get your brain out of this emotional loading that you want to do so you get to beat the crap out of yourself. So are you mostly where everybody else is?
When you put it that way.
That's the way I put it.
Okay.
So nobody's perfect. Everybody's struggling. It just is how much struggle you're going through that you perceive you're going through and how much you let it stop you. A choice, which also means that it's your choice. Yeah.
I paid a counselor.
Damn you, Blair. Damn it. You're using logic on me to screw up my emotions. And I am sort of, but the reality here is you can make a choice. That's my whole point here, is you have choices to make. If you choose not to, you get to stay exactly where you are. If you choose to make choices and fail, you get to change because you get something to evaluate. And that means you can get better.
Okay.
And thank you very much, Jamie. Sorry I didn't notice this earlier, but she just gave me, she is super excellent in many, many crafts and is an amazing writer.
Thank you, Jamie.
Busted. You got things that it's true. 3 exclamation marks. So you have ways of being able to contribute to other people, crafts, writing, on and on and on. Okay. I would kill for being an amazing writer. I'm a very good thinker, but I am not an amazing writer. It is not one of my strengths, but I would kill for that. Okay, so you have something I don't have, not and never will. Being dyslexic, likely never going to get there, and just don't want to be putting the time in for that one. But I do want to transform myself and do minimal writing that is highly effective in very specific ways. So I'm getting better at it. I'm way better at it than I used to be, but I mean, it's a work in progress. Life is a work in progress. It's not about finding it and having it, and it's life is this destination. It's the journey. It really is. And I think you're thinking about life being a destination, and it never is, except you're making it a destination of being stuck. Yeah. Because if you stay in one place too long, you're stuck. And it doesn't feel like you're living a full life, because you're not, because life is about movement. It's not about stuck states. It's not about the destination. It's about the journey. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. That's about as far as I want to go with this, down this rabbit hole with you.
Thank you.
Okay. What have you pulled specifically from this? What are your takeaways? You had numerous notes there.
I do. I have a whole page of notes.
Nice. So what are some of those notes that are effective for you?
That my choice to not repeat behaviors are a measurable positive that I need to hold on to.
Absolutely true. When you say that, how do you feel about yourself when you say that? Okay, you just shifted right there. I caught you. Yeah, I know you're calling bullshit on me, but in your brain, but I caught you. You just shifted. And then you started to minute like it went up and it went back down. And then I said I caught you. I missed it by a second maybe. Because you actually, what?
You're right.
Yeah, so fill me in. What did you feel?
I think that other people look at my daughter's success and or where they are, their self-confidence and independence, and they like to credit me, but then I take it away because I don't feel any more that I should be credited. Just like if they were going down a bad paths, should I be to blame? I just feel like
I agree with your argument. So I don't want to go there. I'm going to
Okay.
you just thank you for filling in the bad paths.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's not what I saw.
Okay.
You look sheepish when you said okay. You smiled, you looked up, you smiled.
Because I'm not sure. I know you saw it, and I know it was going somewhere negative, but I
No, it went positive first, then it went negative.
I know, but you stopped me, so I don't remember where it was going.
Okay, so the positive part that you just did again, you were sort of sheepishly looking at all of this stuff, and you had a flash about you being effective. What do you think that effectiveness was? What did you feel when you thought you might possibly be effective?
A sense of pride.
Right. That's exactly the word that popped into my mind. You looked like you were proud of yourself for a split second, like you did something right. And I concur. I think you did. Okay, because you didn't make it worse. You stopped the cycle. And you're entitled to be proud of what you accomplished. Just like you can be proud of accomplishing making that quilt. It's not crazy pride, it's just pride. It's not being prideful, it's just recognizing what you actually did. That's all. Not blowing it up, not saying, wow, you were the greatest mom in the world, or you were the worst mom in the world, right? No, it's just you did something that was effective. It was just effective, but that's stuff you take pride in. Like Katrina, like John, like Dwayne, like Jamie, all of those people are starting to notice when they're doing things effectively, and some greater than others. Katrina especially, like, is really starting to come out. John as well. He's changed from last week to this week because of his consistency in looking at his behavior and seeing that in a 15-minute chunk, he was effective at not getting distracted and everything else. He was able to hang on to that chunk. And if we don't hang on to these chunks, we don't have anything to hang on to. So you got to turn them into chunks, because you beat yourself up with other chunks. I don't know if you guys have noticed on this tonight on this webinar, it's all about, it doesn't really matter if it's positive or negative, good or bad. Yes, judgment words, but it is the judgments that we do to ourselves all the time. But if you ignore the good and bad, the judgment of it, and you just look at the skill sets, the behaviors, the patterns in there, and you turn them into mind models, you can make them, you can pick a direction and have it go better, more effectively in your life. You can have it be positive and highly effective by the choice you make. And you're making a choice to beat yourself up. Make a choice to support yourself. You have the skills. It's exactly the same skill that you use to beat yourself up. You just have to find the words. And you found a word, pride. And that pride is true and accurate, and it's externally verifiable. And it's not prideful. It was just being proud about one thing you got right in your life. So find another, and then another, and then another. And all of a sudden, you're looking for the things that you do that are effective. And when you do those things that are effective in your life, they start building on more and more things so that you become more and more effective. But if we want to get depressed, all we need to do is go out and find more things that we screw up on, and we practice, and we get really good at beating ourselves up. So we get to be really good and depressed. Or we do it the other way and get really, really effective and become more and more successful. Success breeds success. How come? Because we're looking for the wins. Or you can look for the depression and become highly successful at being depressed. It works either way. It's the same behavior. So you're a successful depressed person, or you're successful at being successful and positive. Choice is yours. You got to recognize it. And yeah, you're right, John. Self-recognition. You got to see this in yourself. If you can't find it in yourself, it doesn't matter what I say or any other counselor says to you, because at the end of the day, we don't change you. You change yourself. Okay? We all change ourselves. I'm a guide. I show you the difference. I'm a Yoda. I'm a Obi-Wan Kenobi. I am that kind of person. It's all I do. I don't have, I can teach you how to be a Jedi in your own mind, but I can't make you one unless you practice the skills. And these mind models will get you there.
Okay.
Okay. So that's it. I'm done.
Thank you.
I hope this has worked for you. What else specifically worked? Hey, Scott, great comment. So true. I'm the only one that can change me. Thanks. You're welcome. You're so welcome. Value-packed webinar tonight, Blair. Thanks. That's from Maryland. Yeah. So true. I'm loving this format because it will get real and more real and more real and more basic and more fundamental, and we can impact lives. because we have something to work with that's real. Hypotheticals don't work. You can't think your way out of things. You have to do it. That was one of the things with mind models that I found, is they don't work in theory. They only work in the real world. Okay, very, very, very true. And just, you cannot theorize yourself out of a psychosis or out of depression or out of anything. You have to change it. You can't dream about changing it. You have to change it, which means getting up and physically doing stuff. That's it. And if you don't do it, it doesn't count. Okay. And you can just throw your own pity party, but you're going to have a pity party of one. And until you decide to not have a pity party, it doesn't change. And I'm not saying that you are, but I'm saying, you know that road, and you know that you can be stuck for a very long time. And fine, you're in your 50s, fine. Well, at least you weren't 63 when you started. Okay. So you can have a great life. By the way, that student of mine wound up having a great life. She went traveling. She did a whole bunch of things she thought she never could do. And she did it. You know, she had the life skills. She knew how to cope and do it. And it's just do the small steps. That's all you need. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Scale of 1 to 10, how effective was this for you, Janet?
Probably 8 to 9.
Perfect. As you may or may not have heard, I target 8s, and I really did not want a 10 tonight. That is not the one that I want. 8 to 9 is perfect. 8 would have been perfect, but that's what I go for, because I don't want to overwhelm you. But what I want to do is give you incremental pieces. Besides, 80% is being very good is my form of excellence. Okay.
Good.
Okay, great. Trevor, if you're there.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, good. So if we can wrap this up for tonight, thank you very much. It sort of ran over longer than most, but it was very worthwhile. So, okay. Anyway, so thank you. Janet can go back as a participant, if that's okay, Trevor.
Sure.
Blair 1. Thank you, Blair 1. Lisa, no worries. Yeah, thanks for all your time and effort, Blair and Trevor. My pleasure. Seriously, guys, it is an honor to serve. Like, you know, I'm not kidding when I say that. It really is. It's fun. It's exciting for me. I get to share mind models with people, and hopefully we can attract more people here so that I can do that. And then we can start running some courses to build mind model coaches. It's what I'd love to do. So anyway, you guys take care. Is there anything that you want to share? Any tidbit for next week's mind model? I'm sorry.
I'm so tired right now. I don't even know what we're doing next week.
Okay, we do have a planned out, by the way. So I just forget which one it is. I'm tired too. But anyway, you guys have a great night, and we'll see you next Tuesday. And you guys take care. Have a great night, guys.
See you guys.
Bye for now.